everyone. This is Jill Hurston with Sinners at Prime. Welcome to our webinar today. So with that, we're going to go ahead and start. I'd like to introduce Sabu Sankara. He is our VP of Software Services at Sinners at Prime. Sabu, over to you.
All right. Thanks, Jill, and welcome everyone. And thank you for taking time to join us today. Really appreciate your time. The webinar topic today is mobile UX design for global market, basically a case study that we're going to go over. And generally, we have heard phrases like user experience or UX for short. User experience is the product. Mobile first, the journey, creating minimum viable product or MVP for short to bring usable product to the market, and how useful a product will be for users who are willing to pay. So we heard phrases like this that are very prevalent, and we heard it everywhere. Today, we're going to talk about a product for the sports aspirants who want to move to the next level in their ambition. That is the case study we're going to talk today. There are two types of end users. One, in this product that we have built, one is the players who want to market themselves, and the other one is other set of users are the coaches and scouts who want to see them. So that is the case study that we are going to discuss today. Mix it up with social media, some smooth moves, audio, video, high quality photographs, images, and some information security on top of that, so that it is the right party is able to assimilate the information. We have a great product that we have built if you mix it up all. So we are going to review the productization process and the key design considerations in building a brand new product from entrepreneur's vision. A case study, there is actually a product that we have built for one of the customers, Talento today. They're the customer that we are talking about. Before we introduce the speakers to you, some housekeeping will go over. So type, as Jill said, type in the question anytime in the chat window, and I'll bring it up during the presentation, where our product team is going to converse with customers. We'll all go off webcam and after the introduction and come back at the end, just to give good space for the presentation material. So now to talk about the product and their experience with productization, and also which sport we are talking about, I would like to introduce one of our customers, Diane Niels, to talk about Talento today and the product, and Predrag, who's going to, who are co-founders of Talento today. Over to you, Diane.
Thank you, Sabu. Thank you for the great introduction already. Yeah, indeed, football, it's the name of the game. I think I was lucky enough, or Predrag and me were both lucky enough to make our passion our job. We can pursue our life in a startup, allowing us and the team to build the next great platform in football. So yeah, that's a short intro on myself. Predrag.
Hi everyone, thank you very much for joining our webinar today. I'm Predrag, co-founder and managing director of Talento today, speaking from Germany tonight. I have to say in the beginning that we are very thankful that we're working with a great partner like Synership, and today we will introduce you how we got to the point we are today. Over to Anusha.
Thank you, Predrag. Hi, everyone. I am Anusha Sridhar. I am a senior product manager with Synership. I have a total of about 10 years of experience in both B2C and B2B products, and my latest product is Talento Today, which we are going to talk about in the next 1 hour. So hope you find this session enjoyable and informative at the same time. Over to you, Anuprita.
Hi, thank you, Anusha. So hi, everyone. I'm Anuprita Apte, and I am a senior product designer working at Synership. And I have over 5+ years of experience working on different B2B and B2C products in the domains such as telecommunications, retail, gamification, and healthcare, and so on. And today I will be walking you through the whole Talento Today user experience journey. So yeah, let's begin. Predrag and Dion, I would like you to share a little about your football journey, how you got into youth scouting, what interested you about it, and what were the challenges and the vision that you saw.
Yeah, Thank you, Anuprita. I think I speak for the both of us, Predrag and me. We both played over 10, 12 years as youth players ourselves. So the passion was there. And that's also pretty much the foundation, the love and passion for football. And then the challenge that we saw was at one part is that everything is and was being digitized from normal industries like fintech and all these other things to scouting for pro players using data analytics, AI, except for youth football, which predominantly still happens with a book and pen. And on the other side, there's the pro clubs that are fighting for talent, but also fighting for the fans of tomorrow. And with Talent Today, we aim to solve both, where we create a platform for Generation Z and millennials to where they can connect, create, and consume football talent. So that's a bit more on where we come from.
Yeah, and we also found it very interesting as a domain to even explore, because it was around a time when we had the 5G rollout. Everybody had a smartphone in their hands, and those smartphones were very powerful in delivering video-based content. And at the same time, we have so many social media platforms at our disposal, which we use for sharing content and staying connected with everyone. And at the same time, we have influencers using it to market their content as well. So with all of this content, this huge amount of content available on these social media platforms, it gets a little difficult for a youth player to be noticed in this sea of content. So at this time, it was the perfect time actually for a talent scouting platform to be conceptualized so that youth players grow big even online and offline. So this was about youth players wanting to create their niche, but what about Talented Today as a product? So with everything going mobile, everybody's on the go, and all the consumers have a sea of products at even the unlock of their phones. So in this sea of products, we needed Talented Today to differentiate itself and create its own niche. So as a result, we had to design a product that was a success so that users don't easily abandon it, because at this point it's very easy for somebody to discover an app, try it out, and abandon it at the smallest of the reasons. We needed Talented Today to become an app which is a success, and there were a few considerations from the UX perspective that we took. So the first one was to be able to accurately anticipate user needs. So for example, players want to be scouted, this is what we know, and when they see a talent scouting app, we need to give them exactly what they are expecting, anticipate what they will need from the app, and deliver it. Then secondly, we also needed Talented Today to become an extension of a player's lifestyle. We use a lot of applications on a day-to-day basis without giving a second's thought. So basically they are part of our lifestyle. How can we make Talented Today also an integral part of the player's lifestyle? The third one was intuitive interactions. So it was very necessary to have design and build an app which would behave exactly the way our players and scouts and even coaches expected to. And then all of these things combine to have Talented Today be a very powerful identity within the sea of products and differentiate itself, and at the same time be sure that it creates a sense of pride and connect amongst the players. So with these considerations in mind, we move to the design process. So here we follow this productization process, which is basically a collaboration between product management, UX, user experience, and engineering. And all three entities, along with the client, collaborate together to define the product. So this consists of two primary blocks, I would say. One is the foundation block, which includes understanding the client's vision, understanding who are the key users going to be, what are the target business KPIs, what are the metrics, and what is the whole challenge that we're trying to solve. And after knowing this information, we move on to the market research, where we actually go to the ground, understand users firsthand by interviewing them or conducting heuristic analysis of any existing product if it's there, and understanding who are the competitors, what is the ecosystem like, and what is the product market fitment. And armed with all of this information, and after validating all of this information on the ground, we move on to defining the foundation of the app, which is basically the set of features that the app is going to have, the product is going to have, and also what will be the product roadmap, and also define the foundation in terms of the navigational structure, the journeys, and the task flows. So after our foundation is built, we move on to the iterative block of the productization process, which is basically defining the detailed design, the wireframes, the visual designs, creating a design system, and also after that is done, develop it. And once we launch a product through after working on sprints, we get actual feedback from the users by testing the app and getting feedback, improving upon any issues and iterating upon it, and then again deploying the corrected versions. So this part of the process is very cyclic and iterative. So to sum up, this was the Prime Synergy productization process, and this was what we started with. So we had this process in mind, but the main issue we had was that we were all working remote. Predrag and Dion, our clients, were located in Germany and we in India. So how did we collaborate? So we had these series of stakeholder workshops wherein we tried to understand what is the key problem that we're going to solve, and also understand all the entities within the ecosystem, such as the players, parents, scouts, coaches, and not just that, but even clubs, academies, and football agents. So, Dion, Predrag, would you like to add a word here about how your experience was doing this deep dive collaborative research with us?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it was really a deep dive also for us. I mean, we were already working on Talent Today for quite a while, but the process and the structure that you came up with really made it even more clear for us who exactly the people are we are talking to, how they all have different needs. Like, I think it's important to see that we have like 3 main users of the app: players, coaches, and scouts, and that through your way of structuring it, we really mapped out per group what we wanted to know, and like could find out in a structured way also what we needed from them to go to the first step of like having thoughts on brainstorming.
Yeah, and it also helped us to also understand the whole ecosystem, because our idea about it was very limited, and this helped us uncover a lot of points. So moving ahead with these points, we decided to conduct user interviews and actually get them validated from real players, real coaches, and scouts. So even here, we had a lot of challenges, such as German language, because we did not know the language and all our target users are German speaking. So with the help of our clients, again, we created a list of questions, surveys, and got these points validated. So it was great to see that what we were discussing was actually what the players, parents, coaches, and scouts were facing on the ground. And with that, we also were able to map their journey. So for example, if a scout has to identify a player and review the player, watch the player's matches, that was laid out in the form of a journey map. And an interesting thing we discovered here was that a scout records the player in different formats. So the scout might have a note written down somewhere, the scout might have a Google document somewhere. It's all scattered, and all of these key points of information also validated the need for a talent scouting app. And at the same time, we also did a competitor analysis wherein we understood who are the other players in this domain. And again, all of those apps were in German. Almost none of the apps were available in India. So again, with the help of Predrag and Dion, we were able to understand and even in some bits translate what was happening on the app, what are the features, and what were their strengths and weaknesses. So with the help of this information, we were able to lay down the foundation of the app, and that began with defining the features for the app. So we brainstormed together individually and then laid down a product roadmap. So here it was important to understand the psyche of the user on day one of usage, on the day the user signs up and onboards on the app, as opposed to probably a few weeks later when the user comes and needs some sort of value from the app. So as a result, we needed to make the day one very smooth, easy, seamless, and at the same time ensure that we have some value for the player on day 100. So we needed to make sure that the app has a combination of features which help us acquire new users and some features which help us engage the existing users. So even the foundations were laid in mind with the whole macro perspective. So here also we had an interesting exercise along with Predrag and Dion, where we voted on some features and we were able to prioritize them. So Dion again, oh, how was your experience working with us on the dot voting exercise?
Yeah, that was a funny exercise to do together, because there we had a kind of democratic process on the things that we had come up with and that we thought would be most important, and that way we really could prioritize them as important to non-important feature, and then see, okay, if that is the most important, what do we have to come up with in the product? And we could already see, like, okay, this and this part of the product could already serve the initial needs of the target group, for example, players and parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it was also interesting how on some features all of us voted unanimously, whereas on some features we voted differently. So there was a good exchange of opinions, and we could then decide which exact feature to prioritize over the other. So with the whole product roadmap defined and the MVP defined, we moved on to defining the foundation of the app, which included the information architecture, the structure of the app for each of its independent users, the player, the coach, and the scout, task flows for each, and what is our user engagement strategy going to be. So like I said, day 1 versus day 100, how do we keep both in mind? And once that was finalized through a lot of design reviews and meetings, I moved on to defining the design language or the visual identity of the app. So here we had to keep in mind that we are designing for players who are around 8 to 16 years, as well as their parents, because some of the players are very young and their parents sign up on behalf of the players. And also we had coaches and scouts who are adults who are using the app. So the visual identity needed to be such that it appealed to the younger generation in a way that it was dynamic, sporty, and fun, as well as offering that level of professionalism and sense of security to the players' parents, and also professionalism and dynamism to the coaches and the scouts. So with these qualities in mind, we defined the colors to be used, and also we use the talented today branding colors, and defined the fonts and the iconography. And as a result, we had a whole design system, and under that there were a lot of UI components that could be reused across the app for efficient development. And one interesting point was that we also created an interactive prototype for the players, coaches, and scouts, so that Predrag and Dion, our clients, could get to experience how the app is going to finally look on their phones, as well as them being able to go on the ground and interact with real coaches and players and get their feedback. So as a result, we ended up saving time on developing features which actually were important or which actually worked. So Dion, I know you went to on the ground and spoke to the coaches and the players. So what kind of response did you get from them?
Mm-hmm. Already go to them and talk to them about the product, having the product in our hand without having it built already. And there you could really see the reactions of the people and see what they liked, what they didn't like. And they could visualize what we were building, what we actually already built, and what maybe seemed for us like a prototype, for them already seemed like a real product that they could navigate through, especially in the startup world, since we're a startup where you first sell the product and service before you actually have it on the shelf. It really made us also more trustworthy towards them, to see that we deliver it on, like, because it's an iterative process, right? We go there the first time, we say, okay, what are you looking for? You do user interviews, and then you come with the first version of the product, and then you develop step over step. And this really helped us get the reaction feedback without having the actual product yet.
Yeah, and this feedback was really helpful to us also, because there we saved a step of validation of having to build it and realize, okay, this is not working, and then have to go back and change some major feature. So the interactive prototypes definitely help. And with them in hand, we moved on to the development of the product itself.
Yeah, yeah. So once the design and the product roadmap is ready to some extent, it's necessary to really start thinking about the technology to be used and how to actually start building the product. And these decisions should be taken keeping in mind the target market and the platforms popular in that market. For us, since it was Europe and there, the Android to iOS breakup was almost 50-50%. So we knew already that we had to cater to both the audience simultaneously. Another aspect to look at it is that when do you want to reach the market? What is your time to market, and what should be that minimum product that is awesome enough for your users? So right now, it's no longer a race to make the MVP. It's actually the race to make the minimum awesome product which your users not only just adopt but also actively use. And lastly, it's also necessary to keep in mind the product's growth as well as its usage when deciding upon what infrastructure to use. So keeping in mind all these considerations, we decided on our technology and tools that are in the next slide.
Actually, we have a question from the audience, Anusha, if I can ask, on the discovery phase,
Sure.
actually. So,
Okay.
So if you want to open up this application to some well-wishers, say if I'm a user, and if I want to open it up to some well-wishers, uncles, aunts, and even fans in my school group or college group, is it possible to do that? Maybe a question for Diane.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So the question is if an uncle or a father or fans can also access the app right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. As of now, it's just the player persona who can log in. But of course, we see that for the younger kids, that the father or the mother or an uncle is actually managing their account, and yeah, that person is navigating through. A next step would indeed be that there is a kind of a fan persona also possible on the application. It's a good point.
Like if I'm a student and a high school or a middle school student, and if I want to open it up to some of my buddies, you know. So that is possible. That persona is it already built, or is it possible to build?
Well, if you're in middle school, you're a normal football player, right? Or let's say a soccer player for American terms, and you can invite your friends to come on board as well. And you can either use it as a player yourself without a coach, or if your soccer coach in middle school or high school has a team on Talent Today, which he can have through a verification process that we do with all coaches that use Talent Today. He could add his players to the team, or you just invite your buddies.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan. Back to you, Anusha.
Thanks, Subbu. Yeah. So before I move on to the technology part and why we selected what, I would also like add on to that answer. People can actually invite their friends and follow each other and form a private social network as well on the app. Okay. So moving on to the technology. So React Native was our choice of front-end over native development since it helps us build cross-platform apps at the same time and we can reuse the code. So both the apps get developed together and saves us time. Then we chose GraphQL over REST API since it helps the front-end developers do rapid front-end changes. And I'm talking about the user experience changes without really changing the backend much. So you can actually get the feedback, implement it very quickly and get back to the market in no time. And AWS was our preferred infra choice because it provides us not just with just a scalable and reliable architecture, but it also has ready services which we needed in the app, like a service for authentication, a service for sending push notifications, etc. So those were our front-end, back-end, and infrastructure technology. And we'll also talk about localization in the next slide. Yeah. So catering to a global market requires a product that is indeed solving a global problem, but yet is localized to the preferences of different local markets and most importantly languages. And since for Talento today, The target market was Europe, which has many languages. It was imperative that we localize the app from the beginning. And we started with three languages, English, German, and Dutch. And for this, we actually created in-house tool within Synergic to manage all of the applications, text, strings, messages, and translations. So everything can be done on the fly without any updation to the app. Here, I would like to let Fred Agodion talk about what they felt about this kind of localization strategy and using this tool, since they were actually the ones who were providing us with the translations, and how important and useful was the tool and the entire localization for you.
Yeah, at Talento here for us, there's a running joke that always, if we think that every task is done for the day, Anusha comes along and asks us or reminds us that we have to finish our translation in that tool. But it's really nice for us. It is the reason why we were able to start already with 3 languages. For us, the most important languages are German, English, and Dutch. And that's why we also have, in this early phase, people or users from many different nations. The other part that is really important is that it is really easy to change a specific translation, because sometimes you translate something and then you see in the app that it could be probably misleading or it's still the wrong term, and then you just go back to the translation tool and change it. And the best thing I would say is that it's immediately live. And with this tool, we have really the opportunity to scale if we want to many different countries. As Anusha has said, in Europe, we have many different languages, and we can basically translate our whole app within some hours.
Right, yes. So we just need the translations. Once they are in, the language goes live in the app. Yeah. So, yeah. So moving on to analytics. Yeah. So finally, to measure what you build, it's absolutely a no-brainer to have proper analytics in place to ensure that the feedback loop is closed with data, and you're able to take data-driven decisions. For Talented today, we integrated Mixpanel for giving us event-based analytics. It helps us understand what the users are doing in the app, what are the most common actions that they are taking in the app. And we integrated Crashlytics by Firebase to ensure that we know whenever or wherever the app crashes, and we can continuously improve the product stability. Since it's a mobile application and there are thousands of Android mobiles, especially, it is extremely important that we user experience track these crashes and are fixing them as we go. And lastly, since Talento is a B2C app, the marketing spends need to be measured against the conversions they get. So Branch is integrated to ensure that we are able to attribute all our conversions to the respective campaign. So these were the tools and technologies that we've used in building Talento today. And before we move to the next section, I would really like to take a minute to understand from Talento, Predrag, on how important data tracking is for Talento today as a startup, and how handy these tools were for you.
Yeah, Talento is not only a social network for youth soccer players. Talento is mainly a data company. So the data we are collecting, for example, during the onboarding process, is so good to segmentate, and it's really unique for a social network, and compared to Facebook, TikTok, and other social platforms like Instagram as well. That is our USP, like the data we are capturing in the beginning of the onboarding process. You can't find them anywhere on other social networks. And especially Mixpanel helps us to understand what is happening within the app, how the user navigates through it. And it's for us, and for I think I'm speaking for Dion as well, the tool we are using many times a day, spending hours on it to really understand what we can improve, but also what works well, for example, influencer campaigns and stuff like that. And we can create cohorts and everything, and really understand where the app is good, but also where our weaknesses are and where to improve. And also Branch, I would point it out, because we're using that as well pretty much, is that we can create marketing campaigns really easy and fast. and really communicate to all users at once.
Yes, yeah. Especially, I think a mixed panel really is something that we all look up every morning when we wake up. The first thing that goes on our laptop is the mixed panel dashboards, and we see how many users we've acquired in the previous day, what is their retention like, etc. Yeah. Okay. So moving on. We've talked about design and we've talked about the technology and their whys, and post all of this comes the actual apps development and the delivery and the go live in the market. And once the product goes live in the market, we must immediately start looking at evolving it rapidly, which means that we listen to our customers, look at their feedback, look at the data that our analytics tools are giving us, test out some changes, form some hypotheses, do some A/B testing, and measure the user's response. And we can also try to see if we can accurately track the user behaviors. There are a couple of user behavior tools available in the market like SmartLook or Hotjar, but in Talento's case we couldn't do so due to GDPR constraints and the fact that our target audience is majorly minors. But having said that, I think a user behavior analysis tool always helps. So in the next few slides, we'll be talking about some tips to evolve your product to get closer to that product market fit that you're aiming at using the analytics tools and the feedback from the user. So the first tip would be...
Anusha, is it okay if I take up a couple of questions that have come in?
Yeah, sure, Subbu. Yeah.
All right, thank you. So Surya is asking, should not we consider the product running cost when choosing technology?
Yes. And
was there any thought given to the running cost of the application?
Yes. So that is one of the points that I mentioned, the growth of your product. Sorry, I think there is a lag. Can I answer this question, Subbu?
Sure, please.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. So running cost is of course taken into consideration while choosing the technology, especially the infrastructure. And you also are supposed to anticipate and have some estimations of your user growth as the months or the years go by. And depending upon that as well, a major decision could go in either ways of the cloud providers. So for us, AWS made both senses, both technology as well as business sense, and that's why we stuck to that.
Very good. And another question is, how do you narrow down the technology stack with so many options available today? I mean, how do you narrow it down for this product, or how did you narrow it down for this product development?
Okay, yeah. So okay, I'll talk it technology by technology. For front end, we chose React Native because we knew that we wanted to go live in both Android and iOS simultaneously, and we also wanted to have a feature parity in both. But we had very limited time and of course a limited team, so we wanted to build both of them together, and that's why React Native was our choice over native development. There is another technology called Flutter, which can also do things what React Native can do, but the programming language that it uses is Dart, and Dart is not really I would say widely used programming language yet, and also its community is not as strong as React Native's is. So since we had to go to market very quickly, we had a language or had a technology in which the language was familiar, and there was a good support of the community. We went ahead with that because we didn't want to wait or spend time on R&D in case we face any challenges. So that was why we chose React Native over the other three. Then for GraphQL, we had an option of using REST APIs. A lot of mobile apps use REST APIs. But for us, it was also important that we are able to incorporate the user experience feedback very quickly as we go without having much changes done. And GraphQL helps us exactly with that. With GraphQL, the front-end developer can actually query whatever he wants. He does not really have to get entire data and then start filtering on it. So that reduces the time to market in case you make a lot of changes. And AWS, like I mentioned, we compared it with Azure, but for our foreseeable roadmap, whatever things that we needed, AWS actually had ready services for it. So and it also made financial sense for us. That's why we went for AWS.
Okay, thank you. All right, you can continue.
Okay, yeah. The first tip to get to your product market fit is stick to Jacob's law. Now, Jacob's law states that users spend most of their time on other sites, which means that the users prefer your site to work the same way as all the other sites do, which means that users will find it easier to navigate through an interface which has a design that resembles to something that they've already used. So in Talento today, if you see the first screenshot on your right, that is the screen we used to show post launch, and it's the login screen. Now, most users are already in a habit of seeing a form and they just start filling it to sign up for the service. And by the time they reach the bottom in this screen, they realize, oh, it's not the sign up screen, it's actually the login screen. And exactly there, we lose our audience. So to fix this, we quickly changed the screen post launch to have a sign up screen, that which is the second screenshot that you see on your right, and everything remaining same, we just flip these screens, and this change immediately improved our install to sign up ratio by 30%. The second part to this story is prioritizing the feedback, right? So every product team will always receive, some or other kind of feedback that might be contrasting, which means that they may turn out to be equally good or equally bad. So in such cases, one really needs to critically analyze each of those feedbacks and see which one makes more sense. So for example, in Talento today, if you see, we have sign up by phone number as a default option, and right below that, an option to sign up using email. And for both the users who sign up using phone or email, we want them to verify their phone number or email. And for that, we send them a 6-digit code that they have to fill in. Now, the delivery of this code is more reliable for emails than for phone numbers. So the SMS delivery is less reliable than email delivery. So that would make one wonder that, why not make email as default so that it gets used more and the delivery rates are higher and the users are more likely to convert. We thought the same thing and we did that, but it didn't help us. In fact, it made it even worse. So as we were pondering upon it more, we got to know that our target audience does not usually have email apps on their phone. So their access to their inbox to confirm the email, to get that code, wasn't as easy as we thought, and wasn't as easy as the access to their phones is. So hence they were dropping off, even though they had started off, signing up using an email. So then again, we went back to the default option, using a phone number, despite knowing that the delivery rates may not be optimal. So here this is an example of where we prioritized having an easy access to remove friction against the guarantee of confirmation of the delivery. So both the options are not the most ideal still, but then we made a choice where the access reduced friction. So these were a couple of examples where we saw how UI improved the UX. Now in the next example, we are going to talk about performance. Now, this tip is related to performance, and it goes without saying that the performance is non-negotiable. Any product needs to meet the performance bar that is set by the existing players, which in Talento's case are applications like Instagram or Facebook or TikTok. And exactly like them, Talento also has a lot of user-generated video content. Another thing to note is when a product is available in multiple platforms, in this case, both iOS and Android, it is important to have the same experience across all of them. And in Talento's first version, we were actually directly streaming the videos from our S3 bucket, the AWS S3 bucket that we have. And there was no customization according to the user's location, user's phone, user's bandwidth. So the user experience was very good for a few set of people, but it was not that good for some other set of people. To improve upon this, we used a couple of AWS services, AWS Elemental Convert and CloudFront, that ensure that the content is tailored and delivered according to the end user's location, end user's phone, end user's resolution, and end user's bandwidth. So it helped us create a unified and acceptable experience across all of our users. This is a classic example where the user experience was improved just by technology and no UI changes. Now, before we actually move to our next step, I would really like our audience to look at these improvements impacted on our metrics, which are on the next slide. And I'll request Predrag to talk about it. What these metrics mean to Talento and how important is it for you guys to keep them growing?
Yeah, as I said before, we are a data company, and to get there, to have many users, we have to have a good onboarding process, and to rely on that for sure. And the changes during that process were really huge, or the result was great. So we can see here that, for example, the install to sign up conversion got higher, about 30%, which means that we didn't lose so many users during onboarding than before, and makes that possible. What our goal is to segmentate those users and to collect all the data that is important to connect them also with professional football clubs. The other thing is that we right now also beat the industry average. For example, the sign up to download ratio, which is also very important metrics for investors, for example, and shows that we are, even though we are in a really early stage moment, that we are already on industry average, and sometimes even above that average. And that's a great result, because as Anusha said before, our target group is very young. We are speaking about like 99% of our users are under 18 years old. I would say a big amount even under 16 years. Most of them using the app on their own, and there are still really high numbers making it through the total onboarding process, which is, compared to other social media platforms, much longer, because we're capturing all data that is needed for scouts, for example, things like not only the name, for example, of the person, but also things like position, the strong foot, other things like the social media accounts, etc. And yeah, we are right now really confident that we can make these numbers even bigger when we are also changing more into a user base that is older than 18 years.
Yes, and I'm pretty confident that we'll reach there, because the trend line for install to sign up is also increasing as we've made those changes. So I don't think that day is very far off from now.
And maybe something to add to that as well, there was also another thing, kind of a language mistake, because in German language, the word for sign up and registering is kind of the same. And also, this was also maybe a reason why some people didn't get how to register, or what the difference is between registering and sign up. But when we changed that as well, it went far better than before.
Yes, yeah. And I remember something similar with the date of birth and DOB as well. And we could quickly change that from the localization tool that we have, and we can source improvement in the sign up completions.
Yeah, correct. We missed that out. We didn't translate DOB, and people were reaching out to us and asking us, what is that? And they weren't sure if that's the date when they joined an academy or club, or the birthday. Some got it right, some got it wrong. And then when we changed that, there were no problems anymore.
Right. Yeah. So I think, the improvements that we did, and the metrics speak for themselves. And this is something that we hope to continue. And which is what brings us to my last tip, which is for the cases when you don't have enough feedback from a single source. And this situation is going to be very common as product managers. That entire thing is very ambiguous, and you would not have a single source to follow or source to believe. So we can use this technique called triangulation technique, which basically means using more than one method to collect data on the same problem. So you look at the same problem from three different angles and try to collect data from all the three angles and make sense of it. For example, we use triangulation in Talento today to identify why users are not following each other. We talked to users, we did some expert analysis as well. We got some UX folks from other team to look at our product, got their feedback too. We formed surveys, we asked the users to fill those surveys, and we also analyzed the data we had on our analytics tool. And while we are still working to completely solve this problem, this entire exercise gave us a few hypotheses that we formed. Like, for example, we can try out, recommendations to use for users to follow at different places on the app and not just at one place. Or you can recommend users to follow on the basis of their clubs or cities or other kind of influencers those people follow. So we'll be trying that out as we grow in Talento today. And we'll definitely be very keen to share the results, perhaps another webinar to do so. But yeah, that's something for the future, and that's something that we will be going on the future. But we already have a head start because we've used this technique. And this is one of the techniques I would like to reiterate that can be used when the user feedback data is not very clear, which is going to be happen more often than you think. And then you would still want to take a data-driven decision in those situations, and which is where this technique comes handy. Yeah. So those are the 3 tips from our side to improve and get to your product market fitment faster. With this, we've come to the end of the presentation from our side, and we can move to questions from audience.
Very good. Thank you. I think we did very well on time. I really appreciate the pace and the depth in which we went. To which we went. So really appreciate your time. Maybe I have a few questions lined up that I would like to go over, but in the meantime, we'll go through a couple of slides of Prime Synergip. Can we just quickly flip through? And I encourage audience to type in their questions while we review a couple of slides and come back to a question. Maybe Diane and Predrag can come back on webcam too. That'd be good. Thank you. So yeah, so we'll talk. So I would encourage audience to type in their questions. I want to thank everyone for their insights, presentation, Q&A that we went through at a good pace. So this is Synergip and Prime, your trusted agile product development partner, and we as a software service company help accelerate your product development and managed services. We are a 1,000-person company with remote locations in Pune in India and Hyderabad in India. We're close to about 1,000 people across these 2 labs, and also we have a good presence in the U.S. In the East Coast as well as in Dallas, and we have our software services folks who work with customers located all over in the US. So we basically address technology skill gaps to help build the product for customers. And using remote teams, there is at least 50% cost saving with offshore product development. And as I said, we also have on-site presence where subject matter experts work with our customers to help to work with their engineering teams and help drive the product road. So this is basically the top level or value prop of Synergip and Prime. Next slide. Okay, this slide captures representative clients that we had worked in the past and present. A good number of these logos are current customers. So we've been doing very good work, help build their product, and also bring newer and newer features to the market. And all our customers are referenceable customers. So we take good care of customers and work with them. And as we shared in this presentation, this webinar today, both Diane and Predrag are young entrepreneurs who wanted to build a great product, and our products team help build them. So the next one, is that the final slide? Okay, so let's go over a couple of questions that came from the audience. So I'm just looking at the questions box. So one of the questions is if you want to bring on a new language to be supported in the application, typically how much time would that take? Like if I'm a prospect for you to come and use your product in a particular region, how soon can we can we bring it online? Who wants to take
Okay,
the question?
I can answer this question.
Okay.
Yeah, so it will take as much time as the translators will take to translate the strings. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's a but still a little open-ended question in terms of the time frame. Would about 8 weeks be a good chunk of time to bring a new language, or is it more or less to get some idea?
Okay, for Talento today, I think it will take a maximum of 3 weeks, I believe, considering the number of strings and messages that we have on the app. And it actually depends on, what kind of application you are translating it. If it's a big application with lots of messages, you'll probably need some more time.
Awesome. Okay, so you built German, Dutch, and English. I'm sure you started with the English and then you enabled the other two languages. So your experience was the same ballpark that you mentioned, or say to enable German, for example.
Okay. So the way we developed it was we developed all three languages together. So every time we developed a new feature, we had it in English, German, and Dutch at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. And this question is probably for Dan and Predrag. If the players want to build their brands within quotes using this application, would that be possible? Like, for example, if I'm a goalie and I want to build my brand in that spot for the scouts and the coaches to see, is it possible to do? And is it possible to track all my, say, for example, is it possible to track all my postings and social media and all that in some hashtag within your application?
Yeah, definitely. That's what users are already doing. I mean, they upload their best videos. That's the most used function in the app. They upload those videos, and they can also add a description to it, which is basically also using hashtags and all that kind of stuff. And that's also a little bit our goal. Next to the scouting topic, it's also to create the next generation of soccer influencers that are quite big on other social media platforms already, but they suffer there from huge competition. That's also the problem of pro clubs, which have social media profiles already, but they are just a drop in the ocean of social media. And on Talento today, we are a social network only for soccer. They can target a much more specific audience and be sure that only people that are interested into soccer will see their content. So there are both parts that are really important. On one side, yeah, the scouting for sure. You have to upload the videos. Without that, you cannot be scouted, but also building your own brand, becoming an influencer is possible.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Excellent. Thank you. All right, and the final thing, and the final question, would you be able to share one or two good thoughts about working with our products team, Anusha and Anuprita, as to how because I know you came with an idea, you wanted to build a minimum viable product. At the end of the experience, at least we have a usable product where you would want to take to market and check it out. So how was your experience working with the products team?
Yeah, first of all, for us, it is until today really interesting to see how deep or like how big an expert a person can become in a sport they've never been into before. And speaking for Anusha and Anuprita, they didn't know anything about soccer before. I mean, that's in India, soccer has not a big impact, also in the US. And if I would imagine myself trying to learn something about the different sports, and I tried to understand, for example, American football, but until today, I just don't get it. When I watch the Super Bowl, it's yeah, really hard, and that's like what we would say we admire, that they dig so deep into it. They became little experts, and they also do the extra round. So for Dion and me, before we started the project and working with them, we thought that we know already everything about the business, but going so deep and doing these deep dives we also encountered new things about the business.
Very good. Very good. Any thoughts, Dan? Any additional thoughts?
Yeah, let me unmute myself. That's one thing that I always hear from Anusha and Anuprita, that I start talking when I'm still on mute in our meetings. But yeah, no, only good things. And as Predrag said, they are so involved, and they're genuinely involved. Even private in the weekend, they forward something about football, which shows their involvement. And I think especially in these times, unprecedented times that I've never seen before, where everything goes remote. It's even more important to have these little points of interaction, and that makes it that you're really a team, and then it's easier to go forward and to like communicate cross-platform on WhatsApp, Slack. I don't know how many channels we have where we communicate. So yeah, that makes our business accelerate thanks to them, and that's what we very much appreciate.
Great. Fantastic. I think we are up against our time. I want to thank everyone for taking time and being with us and sharing your experience with the audience. So I really appreciate, and I want to thank our audience once again for taking time to attend this webinar. And we'll see you in our next webinar pretty soon. That is to be announced on our website. You can check our website and then go from there. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.